Well, the focus of this master plan video is going to be the ONA process. Now, we're going to address three specific things throughout this video. First one is, what is ONA? Not everyone out there knows what I mean when I say ONA. And then, of course, why should Windermere Union Church become ONA? And then what is the process for becoming an ONA? So we're going to address all these things in the video today. So let's start off with the basics. For those of you who don't know, never heard the term before, what is ONA? ONA stands for Open and Affirming. On the website of the United Church of Christ, it describes ONA in this way: that after a time of study, dialogue, and prayer, churches adopt an open and affirming covenant, committing their members to welcoming LGBTQ plus seekers, support their relationship, and advocate for their basic rights. All sacraments and rights of the ONA congregation are available to LGBTQ plus people, including baptism, confirmation, communion, and marriage. So basically, with all of that said, pretty much is the UCC official designate or definition of it. ONA is a designation for UCC churches. Not all UCC churches have it. Only churches have it if they want to have it, if they've gone through the process, if they want to be open and affirming, an ONA church. That is ONA. It's a special designation stating, proclaiming that you are indeed an open and welcoming and loving congregation in all ways. So basically, for the Windermere Union Church, becoming ONA means we simply keep doing what we've always been doing. In our church, all the sacraments have already been open to the LGBTQ community. The LGBTQ community is already equal members of our church in every way. We are all equally loved as children of God, and everyone in the church believes that for everyone. So if we're already living out what it means to be open and affirming, then why do we have to go through a process and get a special designation to just simply say what we're already doing? Well, I'll give a couple of quick answers for this before we dive into maybe a little deeper answer. First, why do we need a special designation of an ONA if we're already living out being ONA? Well, the first answer to come back with is really short and sweet. Why not? I mean, if a church is claiming to be ONA, but they're not willing to get the designation of being ONA, then that begs the question, is that church really ONA? These churches could be argued of not being open and affirming, but closeted and affirming. These churches are loving and welcoming, but there's a but at the end. There shouldn't be a but at the end of we're loving and welcoming. We don't have to explain why we don't have an ONA statement. We're loving and welcoming, but for some reason, some churches are afraid to put 3 letters at the end of their church name. The ONA designation shows the commitment a church has for truly and honestly being open and affirming. It's like a couple who've been together for many, many years. One person in a relationship refuses to talk about marriage. Whenever the topic of getting married comes up, they always answer with, well, we're already living together. Why do we need a document to state what we're already doing? The short answer is, how committed are you to that relationship if you don't want to get married? The ONA designation answers that question for people shopping for our church. How committed is this church to being open and affirming? The ONA designation speaks directly to the issue of the LGBTQ community, but this designation also stands for so much more. You know, every month about 300 to 500 people move within 5 miles of our church. Just think about this as we continue to talk about church growth and in other ways. But every month, 300 to 500 people move within 5 miles of Windermere Union Church. Many of these people come from the north, where the United Church of Christ has a much more prominent presence. When these new UCC families move to Florida, they're looking for churches that embody the values of the United Church of Christ. But because all UCC churches are autonomous, each individual UCC church is free to believe and worship how that particular church sees fit. This means that there are indeed many UCC churches actively preaching against the LGBTQ community. There are many more UCC churches who may not be actively preaching against the LGBTQ community, but they are quietly doing things to subvert and be against them in quiet ways. They would never allow a same-sex wedding to happen in their church. They kind of make it difficult or impossible or straight out tell the LGBTQ community that they cannot take certain leadership roles in the church, or again, are forbidden from different sacraments for one reason or another. But these things are done more quietly. Maybe the church isn't actively preaching against, but it certainly is not being fully supportive. Now, all of these churches I just mentioned are United Church of Christ churches. They are connected with the United Church of Christ denomination, yet they do not embody the values of the UCC church, even though they're part of the denomination. Now, we can have a discussion another time. Why are they part of the denomination? But there a lot of history, merger, stuff like that go into this conversation. But the fact is, there are UCC churches who are anti-gay. There are UCC churches who maybe aren't actively preaching against, but are quietly preaching against. So when a new family moves into the area and they're looking for a new UCC church to call home, they're looking for that ONA designation on the church. The ONA designation simply tells these potential future members that this church fully embodies the values of the United Church of Christ. When they see a UCC church without an ONA designation, red flags immediately go up. If this is a UCC church, then why are they not ONA? All churches say that they are welcome. All churches say that they are loving. Our church can claim all we want, that we are loving and welcoming. Our church can claim all that we want, that we're really an open and affirming church. But without that special designation, the UCC families moving to Florida and looking for a new UCC church, they only see that our church is UCC in name only. They are not in our church to see our warmth and love. They're researching our church online to see if they want to try and attend the church. And they will see online that our church has made the conscious decision not to be open and affirming. And as they're researching our church, red flags will go up in their research process. Many people at this church have proudly told me that Windermere Union Church is already an open and affirming church in spirit. And from what I've seen in my first 3 months on the job, they're right. This church is already living out what it means to be an open and affirming congregation. But people outside the church who are church shopping do not know this. Why would we want to hide the greatest aspect of our congregation? For some churches, becoming ONA is a big deal. For some churches, it is met with some contention and some maybe arguments and scuffle. Not our church. We need to enter this process without fear, without worry, without anxiety. We need to go into this process knowing and believing that we are indeed already an open and affirming church. There's no reason for this to be a contentious process. Just going to be a process. That's it. We need to proclaim the good news to the world that we are open and affirming and have the courage to put ONA next to our name. Now, this brings us to answering the final question for this video. what exactly is the process of becoming ONA? The short answer is, what do we want the process to be? The United Church of Christ recognizes that each individual church is different. They're different sizes. They're different in how far they have come in their ONA spirit. Some churches are much more divided over the issue. We make this process however it fits for our particular church. The important part, and this is the important part, the whole point of it being a process, is that by the end of our process, we are truly ONA. I know that we believe that we're truly ONA. That's great. But we want to avoid someone coming to the church and inadvertently getting hurt because someone says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing. We can be well-meaning and just say the wrong thing out of just not knowing. There's always room for growth. So the process is a time for us to become better educated on things like terminology, what to say, what not to say. Now, we've already been educated this past month and educating ourselves on the theology of what the Bible may truly say about open and affirming and being welcoming to the LGBTQ community, kind of demytholizing, what the word, the clobber verses, if you will, to try to debunk some of those poor ways it's been translated. So after some time in this process of education, prayer, reflection, as a congregation, we'll write an ONA covenant. Our congregation will vote on accepting that covenant, and then we'll be certified as a United Church of Christ ONA congregation. It's that simple. It's really not rocket science. It's not that difficult, and it's not a scary process at all. For this congregation, in fact, I think the process is going to be actually very fun and uplifting. It's going to be a great engagement thing for our church to do. It will be enlightening and affirming for many people. And the process will give this congregation some energy and focus as we go into the future months here. We want the members of this church to take ownership of this process, though. So we are going to begin this process with a vote. Now, this is not to be confused with the final vote when we adopt our covenant. This initial vote right now is specifically just getting the affirmation from all of you in the congregation that, yes, indeed, we're ready to begin the ONA process. So check for your emails for a link to this vote. It's simply a yes or a no vote to begin the process. And remember, the vote is just, do we want to begin the process? It's a process of education, prayer, reflection, knowledge, getting ourselves ready, writing a covenant, and getting approved by the UCC congregation. The time is now for Windermere Union Church to become an open and affirming congregation.